Welcome back to Sparks of Joy Studio. In today's projects, we will be using just paint. Nothing fancy like transfer, stamps, molds, decoupage. It is just paint today. For our first project, I have this bowl that actually belonged to my mother, and she gave it to me so that I could upcycle it. I liked the wooden look, but if you notice on the inside, there was some painting in there, or something had been painted in there from a while ago. So I am just taking raw silk by Fusion, and I am going to give it 2 coats of that color. Once the paint was thoroughly dry, I took some 220 grit sandpaper and then just very lightly sanded around the edges of the bowl, as well as some random spots along the outside, just to give it a little bit of that distressed look that I personally really like. I also really liked the wood color that was underneath, and I wanted that to show. Now, I had gotten these wooden apples off of a Whatnot sale a few weeks back, and I have been waiting for the perfect time to be able to upcycle them. I noticed there were some cracks in some of them, and I really wanted a different look for them. Originally, they were going to be something I kind of turned into ornaments for Christmas, but I thought about this idea instead, and if I decide to do it for Christmas later, I can always change it. So what I'm doing first is just cleaning all of them, and I am figuring out how many I have. I thought I had 12, but I can only find 11 right now. Not exactly sure why. Giving them all a really good clean with a wet wipe. For these apples, I wanted a variety of the more neutral greens that Fusion has. So I chose 4 different colors. I have a couple of them in Lichen by Fusion, which is this color you see here. I also wanted to show you a quick comparison of the other light color I used. The left is Eucalyptus and the right is Lichen, and you can see it's not a huge difference when you look at them in the container, but it does end up looking much more neutral, not as green, this Eucalyptus color, once it dries down. I also decided to use the Conservatory color from Fusion, which is kind of a mix. It is a much more neutral, but of the colors that I used or that I chose for all of these greens, this is probably the brightest and most vibrant of them. I also have Bayberry by Fusion, which I put on a couple of the apples. I also used Wellington, which is what you see me painting with here. And then the 6th color, I know I said 4 at the beginning, but it's actually 6 different colors, I just forgot, was Everett. Everett was the last darker green color that I used. And here is a look at our finished projects. The next project I actually started when I was attempting to do a vertical live, and I am so incredibly nervous to do lives, and I was hoping to do it at a time that nobody would see me, but of course, not only did people pop on, but some of my regulars, I guess I should say, one that was a really great customer, Lorna, and then Sharon from Cozy Junk Studio was there, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I wasn't prepared. I was literally just seeing if I could make it work. But anyway, I had these tiny 6 little bundt pans. I think I got it from Royce's Whatnot sale make sure you guys are checking these out. A lot of these amazing content creators on YouTube are now over on Whatnot, and they have some amazing deals on their DIYs, on various thrifted items they have, so I highly recommend you check it out. I painted all of these with 2 coats of Terracotta by Dixie Belle. For the stems, I decided to use some wine corks that I had in my stash. I had painted it with Oakum by Fusion, but some of them were just too long. I don't know, they were all too long. They're around the same size, right? But I was okay with maybe 1 or 2 of the little pumpkin tops having that longer stem, but I wanted a variety. So here I am working very, very hard to pop these into two, to cut these into two, and then I'm going to paint on the second coat and style up these little pumpkins. I'm using some hot glue to put some pip berries that I had gotten off from a huge, I guess, strand of them from the Goodwill bins. I pulled a couple of them off and I am using them to style underneath the little stem that I created with that wine cork. And then I'm going to take some Spanish moss, which is not my item of choice to work with because it just gets everywhere, but it looks so pretty. I wanted to put just a touch of it in there, and I only did that on a couple of the pumpkin toppers. Now I'm going to seal in all of that paint with some antiquing wax, and I believe this is by Folk Art. It is a watered down version of this wax, so just so you know, it is not the original color that you usually get or the original thickness or texture that you would usually get when you open up a brand new container of this. But I had some left over and I just kind of have been filling it with water as needed to create the, I guess, balance that I like. That way I can just paint it on and let it dry and not have to worry about like the wiping back part. I wouldn't necessarily do this with like a bigger piece or something that's going to get a lot more wear and tear, but for these little decor items you only use like for a couple months, it's a little bit different. I wanted to find a different kind of orange to use that was a little more muted. I really like that Terracotta by Dixie Belle. The only other oranges I have are by DIY, which are beautiful but just very vibrant for what I'm looking for this next set of projects. I ended up mixing Damask with Prairie Sunset. Both colors are by Fusion, and I ended up creating what I believe to be a beautiful muted terracotta color. And so I apologize it's out of frame, but it is what I am painting with this vase with right now, as well as the two pumpkins that you see on the table are also painted with this color that I mixed. Throughout the summer, I've been searching for some larger vases, and I found this one. It was that pink color originally, and I started painting it earlier in the summer, and then I just never finished it. Today, we're going to finish it so that we can use it to style up my fireplace area for fall. So this is Raw Silk by Fusion. It already has 2 coats of that color on there, and I'm just going to give it a 3rd coat. I am not going to be sealing this with anything else. I might in the future maybe want to bring out some detail, but I really liked the smooth finish that was on here with just those very, there's definitely those ridges right there, right? But other than that, there's no other kind of texture on this specific vase. I also have this other very large vase that it has been a bear of a project. I have tried so many different things with it and I got super frustrated and pushed it off to the side. That's why it looks horrendous right now. It was originally like a teal color with a lot of crazing on it. I am going to paint the entire thing with a coat of Woodwick just to kind of blend everything back to one color. I had tried using some of the patina paint by Dixie Belle, and that's why you see kind of like some rusty colors or peeking through that lighter, I believe, cashmere that I had painted it with. It was still bleeding through. So I wanted to have like a darker, more neutral color in the back before I painted it with what ultimately ends up being the color of this vase. Now I'm going to use that Eucalyptus color again, that very subtle green, much more of like a neutrally beige color, but it does have a hint of green in it, and it's a beautiful color. I actually have never purchased this in the large pint size. I'm really strongly considering it. I've gotten very lucky because Julie has provided this in at least 2 of her Colors of the Month clubs, and I think there was one that maybe Sonnet, no, Sonnet did Lichen, sorry. I get a lot of these monthly subscriptions from other stockists, and it helps me to have the colors that I want when I want them. So now that I've finished painting it and letting it dry, I am going over the entire piece with the white wax by DIY. I will cover the entire thing and then wipe back the excess once everything is covered. And once that was done, I did feel like I needed something to bring out the details. So I am just taking my wax brush that I use with the dark waxes that I have, and I heated it up a little bit with my heat gun to bring some of that dry wax up. I did not add any more wax to the actual brush. I am just wiping it on to give just a very, very delicate amount of wax to bring out some of those details and that texture that I had previously created with some salt wash and just painting it probably 5 or 10 times. I also wanted to use up the rest of that muted terracotta color that I made with those two colors, Damask and Prairie Sunset. And so I am going to be painting it onto this vase that I had done in a previous video where I was using some of that textured sponge painting technique. The only reason I painted it, I absolutely loved that. And I have a bunch of other vases that I have kept with that same style. But when I put this on my natural brick fireplace, it just almost gets lost in the midst of it. If I had a white fireplace or a very stark white background, it would probably be something I would have left that beautiful darker brown toned. But because of that, I wanted to have something that was still more of like a fall vibe, but much lighter than this vase actually was. I also wanted to add in some fall leaves, but I don't have any that were tall enough for any of these vases. But I had this. They just looked really, really fake. I gotten them off Amazon. So I tried, first thing I tried was to paint them, and I thought, oh, maybe if I just dry brush a little bit, it'll be, it'll be perfect. It did not work, and I knew it was going to take me forever, so I scrapped that idea, and I decided to take these outside and use some spray paint. I spray it very lightly with some white chalk spray paint and then with a stone textured spray to create the colors that I ultimately get in this finished project. One other little bonus here for you. I have this that I created back at the beginning of summer, and I had put some summer flowers in it. It's just a piece of scrap wood with holes in it that I drilled, and I'm just flipping it and putting in some new greenery that I had gotten for fall. Thank you so much for joining me today. Do not forget that this entire week from the 26th through the 31st, I have 43% off everything on my website, no code needed, and that's just in honor of my 43rd birthday. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.